One man hitchhiked close to 4,000 miles from Caracas to El Paso after he could no longer find a way to feed his twin daughters at home due to food shortages sparked by lack of rain. Another walked for 3 months with his wife, children, and all their animals from Mali to Burkina Faso after his landlocked country became unlivable due to endless drought. An 83-year-old Bangladeshi woman laments the loss of her family. She hoped to grow old with them around her, but the younger generations had to leave in response to rising sea levels, and she fears they'll never return. One Pakistani flood survivor tells us, "The water came at night. We didn't have time to save our belongings. We had to choose whether to save our children and ourselves or property and assets, so we saved our kids. We left. We left everything we had, and we ran. And there's nothing to return home to." There's a massive migration happening globally. Last year, 60 million people were displaced as a result of climate change. That's more than double the number just 2 years before. And today, those climate migrants constitute a majority of the planet's refugees. Drought, flood, fire, sea level rise, and storms are all contributors to decreased food supplies, inadequate housing, loss of livelihoods, and reduced access to clean water for hundreds of millions of people. Violence in Afghanistan has subsided, but massive drought has triggered a food crisis, leaving tens of millions of people in starving or near starving conditions. Torrential monsoons triggered unprecedented flooding in Pakistan, destabilizing their food system, killing thousands and displacing millions of people. The entire nation of Maldives is shrinking due to significant land loss as the sea levels rise. 90% of Chad's primary water source has dried up, rendering the nation a dust bowl. Haiti lost 98% of its forests, making the country increasingly vulnerable to every crisis. Prolonged heat waves as much as 124 degrees in India forced schools to close, fires to erupt, citizens to die, and have reduced food output significantly enough to affect the entire planet. And while the numbers of people actually moving in the United States is currently small, we expect them to increase because we're not immune. Fire, flood, storms, drought, and unprecedented temperature highs and lows are all conspiring to move people to New England, the Appalachian Mountains, the upper Midwest, and the Hudson Valley, because risks in these places have been somewhat mitigated, at least for now. I'm sure we all know people who are thinking of moving or who have moved because of climate change. About 1/3 of the people who moved to Vermont in the last 2 years claim climate concerns as their primary reason for moving. Credible predictions estimate a total of 1.2 billion climate refugees in the next 25 years. That's 15% of all humans on Earth moving from their homeland to other nations because their portion of the planet is no longer livable. In all of human history, we've never seen anything like it in either size or time frame. A shift in population like this is sure to create instability in both the places people leave and the places they arrive. We can already see the intense response to migrants arriving on our southern border from Venezuela, and those numbers don't come close to the human wave that will hit us and other nations over these next 2 decades. Refugees are safeguarded under international law. There are rights and privileges of protection that ensure that people fleeing for their lives will have somewhere safe to land. A refugee is defined as someone who has a well-founded fear of persecution in their country of origin based on religion, race, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. The definition entered into law in 1951 at the United Nations Refugee Convention, and every state agrees and adheres to its principles. Unfortunately, the United Nations has failed to legally define climate as a protected reason for migration. While the UN High Commission for Refugees has stated that people displaced across borders in the context of climate change and disasters may, in some circumstances, be in need of international protection, the United Nations has declared that these people are not considered refugees and are therefore not protected. So despite the recognized dangers climate migrants face in their countries of origin, international law allows states to deport these migrants, creating greater instability and uncertainty across the globe. Those lack of protections make leaving one's home risky as people head into precarious situations across borders. But they do it because they can't survive if they don't. And soon, 1.2 billion people will be living without the safeguard of international refugee law as they do what they can to find a safe place to live. Today is United Nations Sunday, a date we recognize as part of the UU liturgical calendar every year. And I'm talking about climate forced displacement really because that's the topic that the planning team chose. It's a funny thing too, because there's so much happening right here and in the world, and yet there's so much we also don't know or don't see. And this is a difficult topic to preach. And yet, I've never skipped a UN Sunday. I don't skip it because it really is so easy to forget all the other people that we share the planet with. It's so easy to get caught up in our own worlds, our own lives, and live not so much in denial, but in blind apathy about the struggles of the people around us. It's even easier when people are far away, when their lives are so different from ours, when their struggles are almost impossible to imagine or are so enormous. There seems to be no reason for me, an individual person, to worry about it. I mean, what can I do about a monsoon in the Philippines? That framework, though, is dishonest. First of all, it's not about people far away. We live in an interdependent web of existence, each deeply and profoundly connected to the other. Second, I am more than just one person. We all are. So here's a typical weekday, a morning for me. I wake up, I walk the dogs, I get my son up, I turn on the water for a hot shower, I brush my teeth, dry my hair, put on some makeup, get dressed, make my son oatmeal. Then we get into the car so I can get him to school and I can get me to a very large cup of coffee. That's typical. That's probably typical for a lot of people. So let me just break that down. I walk my dogs. They have extendable leashes that were shipped from the UK. They are plastic and nylon, both made from petroleum. Our water is actually sourced from a well right next to our house, but the heat comes from an electric hot water heater. Coal is used to generate power, electric power. I use a toothbrush, also petroleum-based, in a warm bathroom, thanks to our oil-fueled furnace. The makeup I use the ingredients are made in Mexico. I'm sorry, the makeup itself was made in Mexico. The ingredients come from China. I had to track all these ingredients. So I'm not really sure where the oats for Zach's breakfast come from, but Russia leaves leads the world in production. My car is a hybrid from Japan. The gasoline is likely from the Middle East. And that big cup of coffee is born in Ethiopia. Now, it's likely that my mind is in 100 different places as I move through the morning. I mean, just as I was writing this, the things on my mind that morning included a friend whose 3 kids have COVID, my mother-in-law whose memory is getting a little bit frail. I was thinking about some of you that day. It's unlikely on any given morning that I'm thinking about the forests that were decimated to make way for coal mining, or the groundwater that was contaminated for coffee bean growing. I move mindlessly through my life, radically connected to all the systems and all the people of this ancient and fragile planet. I think of those people, those refugees, those climate migrants traveling by foot so slowly with all they have in tow, or running for their lives, hoping to escape the floods or fires quickly devastating everything they have. I think of those people as distant, even though the choices I'm making, the lifestyle I'm enjoying, is directly implicated in the crisis they are each hoping to survive. We can all turn our attention to things that are more immediate, more physically present, but we are all caught in this interdependent web, whether we pay attention to it or not. So this isn't about people far away. This is about me and my husband and my son and my neighbors and everyone I know and everyone you know, and how all of us live and all of the things we pay attention to. I'm not overly interested in putting blame on individual people. That really isn't what I'm saying. The systems that define our lives, the corporations that want to maintain high profit margins, have done a good job of turning attention onto individual people as if we could recycle our way to a healthier planet. There are plenty of reasons for all of us to change our habits, but the problem of climate change requires a dramatic rethinking of everything. Regardless, this isn't about people far away. It's about us. And it's not about where breakfast comes from, or it's not only about that. And paying attention only to that won't do that much to help the suffering families from debilitating heat in Sudan. Second, I am not alone. We are not alone. We have each other. We have each other in this room if we have no one else. We are not alone. Last week I was feeling a little defeated. We'd had this wonderful art Sunday here, you may remember, and I had been feeling just like, ministry is hard. And on Monday, I caught myself thinking, I just want to go to the theater and go to museums and hide from all the big things that are happening around us. I had been on the planning committee for a climate action happening at Black Rock on Wednesday, and really, on Monday, I did not want to go. I told the team that day that I was changing my role in the action, that I would show up and I would witness, but I didn't want to be an active participant. I had said I was willing to be arrested if need be, since the action included an arrestable offense, but on Monday I changed my mind. At 6:30 Wednesday morning, I was at the train station wondering if I was even going to show up at Black Rock when I got into town. I emailed Dylan, our communications coordinator, to see if he was going, and he was. I had asked him to get involved to support some media needs for the protests, and I figured I'd gotten him into this. I can't really just not show up now. So I left all signs that I'm clergy behind and decided to go incognito. I just thought, if no one knows, I can just kind of blend in with the crowd and just support what they're doing. While on the train, I wondered, what I think really is going to change, right? This is the second action we had at BlackRock. It's the largest investment firm in the world. They have more than $1 billion invested in fossil fuels. The ask is to get them to stop investing in new fossil fuel projects. I showed up hoping to be invisible. It didn't completely happen that way. I ended up playing a role on the de-escalation team. But here's the thing. The two greatest technologies of the 20th century are solar panels and civil disobedience. Something powerful happens when people gather together for a cause. Most of that action was prayer. We prayed together in the form of many different religious traditions. We gathered in the lobby of BlackRock. People were trying to get to work, and we took over the lobby to pray. We disrupted the status quo. We stopped them from mindlessly doing what they do, the way we all mindlessly do what we do. Then we tried to go upstairs. We told them we had a letter. It was from clergy of New York City. I signed it myself. Just asking, please don't invest in any new fossil fuel projects. And they wouldn't let us deliver the letter. They wouldn't let us upstairs. So we did what we went to do. Some of us blocked the stairs. The police were called in, dozens of them, and some of our group was arrested. I started that day feeling defeated, feeling like I wanted to hide my head in the sand. By noon, I was feeling empowered. I saw the faces of people inspired, people committed, people who know we have nothing to lose, that it won't be long before more than 1 billion of us will have to flee our homes to find safe ground. I was watching people I know being taken away, cuffed, led out backwards to a police van, and I thought, thank God that there's more than me. Because if it had been left up to me, no one would be there. But there they were, doing for me that morning what I couldn't do, and I thought, well, this is not a sprint. And this is not a marathon. This is a relay race. We pass the baton to each other when we get tired. But that doesn't mean we're not on the team. The situation is dire. The stories are sad, they're infuriating, they're depressing, and feelings of powerlessness are normal. But we have power. When we gather together to be heard, we are powerful. Sometimes the world feels heavy, or the road seems long, and the only action we can take is to let our hearts break. But that's not nothing. Let it break. Let yourself feel overwhelmed. Let your soul ache. Pass the baton when you have to, but don't look away. See the man walking thousands of miles for water. See the family fleeing the forest fire, carrying nothing. See the old woman waiting for the generations who can never return. That's our task. We see. We let our hearts break. And we gather with others whenever we can to rise up together.